Imagine Earth with no water, just space and land. Instead of the water, there is just emptiness. How would we act? How would we react as humans? First, we will die of thirst, because there is nothing to drink and to fulfill our and to quench our thirst. Secondly, we will die of starvation, because there will be no food for us to eat, because our food heavily relies on our need of water. Lastly, we would die of lack of oxygen, because majority of our oxygen comes from the water. So, how is it produced? Would we be able to get enough water in the absence of the ocean? Or would the amount of air we get from the trees need to be rationed? In this short presentation, I'm going to share with you the little known fact concerning the availability and production of oxygen. Be aware that I will go into bits of detail and will use scientific terms which will be explained, but it is necessary for understanding the information. If you would ask the average person where oxygen will come from, they will say from trees. I personally have been taught when humans and animals breathe out, they release carbon dioxide. The plants in turn take in the carbon dioxide and release oxygen into the air. And we use that air to fulfill basic human needs. This is an air exchange between humans and plants. So yes, many of us while growing up have been taught in school that plants is the number one source of oxygen for us. While that is true, the oxygen that trees produce on land can only account for about 28% of oxygen on Earth. This is because that is the percentage of space that trees take up on the land. The remaining 70% of the oxygen that we receive comes from the ocean. Out of the total amount of water, 97% is salt water, and that is one of the major contributing growth factor of algae is salinity. So in order to give off oxygen, it needs salt water. Well, what is algae? Algae can be described as having no true stems, root, or leaves. It is present in the ocean. Algae consists of diverse organisms. I'll give you some examples. Kelp, sea lettuce, and coral strands. And just like plants on land, they can photosynthesize. Well, you may ask, what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the conversion of carbon dioxide and water into a type of sugar. This occurs in green plants with the help of sunlight and chlorophyll. Algae is received required carbon dioxide and water from surrounding areas, and it uses chlorophyll already present in the plant. The process creates food for the plant, and as a byproduct, oxygen is generated and released. The oxygen production peaks during daytime, as that is the time the sunlight is present and made available for photosynthesis. Well, how does algae grow? What does algae need to grow? There are many factors that contribute to the growth of algae, such as nutrients availability, temperature, salinity, etc. And as mentioned before, sunlight and carbon dioxide along as water is needed to produce sugar as a source of energy for the algae. But they also need other nutrients: nitrate, silicate, calcium, iron, and phosphate aid with growth. And the optimum temperature for algae is between 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, which is normal for bodies of salt water. This is necessary for since algae needs salt to survive. If there's an abundance of these nutrients, it may result in algae bloom, which is detrimental to the environment as it poisons the water and aquatic life dies. Predators often predators often keep algae at normal amount, preventing growth from being overbearing on the environment. With that being said, we can conclude that water, specifically algae plants, is a greater producer of oxygen that we receive. So while science rightly claims that oxygen is gotten from trees, let us understand that the plants consist of those mainly found underwater. For further emphasis, think of how does fishes get their oxygen? Thank you.
Okay.